Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Doing another video on 2002 Chevy Silverado 1500 with a 5.3 liter, and I'm going to be replacing the transmission filter along with the fluid. First thing I'm going to do is go ahead and pop the hood. Alright, so with your hood pop, go ahead and locate your transmission dipstick. It's going to be that red one there. And normally you would check this with it running, but I just want to show you guys something real quick. Let me wipe this off. So if you look here on the dipstick, you'll see a cold mark right here, and then also hot mark. This truck has been sitting overnight, so it is cold. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'll stick this back in, I'll start it up, and then we'll pull it while it's running, and then we'll make sure we're in the cold mark here. That way we can measure how much comes out when we drop the pan and filter, and we know how much to add when we go to add new fluid into it. So let me go ahead and stick this back in and start it. So with it started and running at idle, go ahead and pull this. Give it a wipe. Stick it back down in there. Check it, and actually, as you can see, we are way over the cold mark. We're even past the hot mark there. So this transmission is actually overfilled, so that's kind of going to mess us up when we go to measure how much came out and fill it, so we'll have to put less in, because ATF expands with heat. Like I said, we're cold, so we were way up here, so this transmission's actually overfilled. So I'm just gonna put that in like that. Let me go ahead and shut it off. And so I went ahead and blocked both sides of one of the rear wheels here, because we may have to mess with the shift linkage, and you don't want this rolling on you. So it's a good thing just to block both sides of one wheel. And with this being a four-wheel drive, it's kind of nice. So you shouldn't have to jack it up or anything. You should be able to just crawl right underneath there. And then go ahead and crawl underneath here. Get yourself a 15 millimeter. Luckily this pan has a drain plug in it. Some of them won't. And then also got a nice clean large drip pan. And let's go ahead and remove the drain plug here. Go ahead and let that drain. Okay, so once that gets down to just a drip like that, we can go ahead and replace the drain plug there just so it doesn't make a mess on us. Next, we'll locate our shift linkage right here. So we need to remove it from here and also up here. That way you can gain access to the bolts back behind it here. So if you take like a trim tool like this, and you should be able to just pop this off of here, just like that. And then for the back side here, grab yourself a flathead screwdriver, and you can see there's like this large staple. What you want to do, get your flathead underneath on the back side here, and you'll just pry, and you can see that just kind of comes out of there. That's what that looks like. And then you got these little tabs here, so you may have to use a pair of needle nose, but you can see these plastic tabs, so we need to kind of push those in, and we're going to try to remove that out of this little bracket here. But you got one on the upside too here, so if you can squeeze those with your hands, kind of hard to get your hands up in here though. There we go. So then you can get that kind of up out of the way here. All right, so next we'll go ahead and pull all the pan bolts. I'm hoping we can get it out with that bracket still there. If not, we may have to remove that. Let's go ahead and try it first with it still on there. So you go around, just get all the 13mm bolts out, and then just watch it, because that pan will want to tilt and everything on you. Just make sure you got your pan under here. Alright guys, so as you saw, I wasn't able to get that pan out of there. Kept getting caught up on this bracket here. So I think we're going to have to remove it. So I went ahead and put the pan back up here. Just hand screwed in one of the bolts just to hold it there so it's not dangling around there. And there's two screws holding this bracket in up on top right over this drive shaft here. And those are going to be Torx T40. And it's really tight getting your hand up in through here, but it is doable. And you can use like this style here, or if you got a flex ratchet like this, you can go in at an angle and then just kind of loosen it that way. You got to kind of go off a feel. That's what I had to do to see what size it was. So let's go ahead and pull both of those, and hopefully that's all we need to remove. I'm hoping we don't have to do anything with the exhaust here. So let's get that bracket removed. So I'm hoping you guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. Like I said, if you can get your hands up in here and just go off the feel. So feel it right there. And once you're on it, go ahead and loosen it. I think I'm on the front one here. GM doesn't make it easy, that's for sure. Luckily, once you get it broken free, you can actually, it comes out pretty easily by hand. So that's what it looks like. That's the front one. Now, do the back one. The back one's actually a little easier to get to. Still not too easy, but you can see it's coming loose there. There's the other one. Now let's see if we can pull this off of here. Okay, so that's what that looks like. So with that bracket out of the way here, let's go ahead and try this again. Now we should be able to just see how much easier that comes off with that bracket out of the way there. Then just be careful. There's still quite a bit of fluid in here. Just try to get out from under the truck with it, keeping it level. Okay, so with our pan out, let's go ahead and remove our filter now. And you can see where it goes into the transmission there. You're just going to pry it out, and you'll lose quite a bit of fluid as well. So make sure your pan's under there. So just kind of grab it, and then you can kind of wiggle it and just pull down on it. So just like that. And then go ahead and let that drain some here. You can see how much comes out of that. It's quite a bit. Okay, so now let's go ahead and dump the rest that's in the pan here into our drain pan. And then you can go ahead and remove your magnet here. And we'll go ahead and get that cleaned up. And you can see it's not too bad. There's some varnish in here and that. But I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up with some brake clean and paper towels. And then also gonna have to scrape off this gasket as well. Looks like it actually pulls off pretty good here. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of that pulled off, get the pan cleaned up, and we'll get our magnet back in, and then I'll show you the new filter here. Alright guys, so as you can see, got the pan all cleaned up. Went ahead and just did both sides, and just used some brake clean and paper towels, and then also used some compressed air and blew everything out. And then also you can see your magnet's all clean as well. So let's go ahead and throw that where it was. That'll just go right there. And then, so I ended up buying this AC Delco filter off of Amazon, and actually it's the wrong one. So GM made two different style pans for these trucks. So you have a shallow pan and a deep pan. And so this one here is the deep pan. And I bought the filter for the shallow pan. And you can see on the back, it's kind of an aluminum. And then you can see the thickness of it. But look at our old one here. You can see it's plastic on both sides. And then you can see how much more thick it is compared to this one. So I ended up having to just go with the CarQuest one here locally from Advanced Auto Parts. I'll send this one back to Amazon. But I'll put a link in the description to the correct AC Delco one off Amazon. So the one I'm using from Advanced is 96080. And you can see that's going to be the new filter. So that does match this one here. And you can see it has these three little divots in it as well on the back side there. So got the correct filter now. And then also comes with a new gasket. The other one had a cork gasket, so this one comes with this like rubber material one. And then you also get the little like O-ring that sticks up in the transmission, which not sure if I'm going to use that. I'll take a look at the old one, see if it needs to be replaced, because a lot of times pulling these out, you'll scratch the soft aluminum in the transmission. So a lot of times if it's nothing wrong with it, I usually just reuse the old one. So let's go ahead and take a look at that real quick. Alright guys, so as you can see, that's where that little O-ring is that your filter goes up into. And I'm not having any issues with this one, so I think I'm going to go ahead and leave that. And it's really hard to get up in there too. But like I said, you start using a screwdriver or a pick or something, and you'll start scratching or gouging the aluminum in there. So I'll just go ahead and leave it. So now let me go ahead and just clean up around the gasket surface here, and then we'll get the filter in. Okay, so I got the gasket surface all clean. Let's go ahead and stick our new filter up in there. So you pretty much just stick it in the hole there, and then you'll press up. Just like that, it kind of clicks up in there. And you can see that's holding it just fine. So that old gasket O-ring will work just fine. All right, so then go ahead and get your new gasket on here. And this should only go one way. So you got these like little half circles here. That'll go right here. And then you got another one over here. So kind of get that lined up, make sure that matches all your holes. And then what you can do, because that gasket's going to want to move around, so what I'm going to do is if you stick your pan bolts through the gasket here, you can see the bolts kind of stay. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around and stick each one of these up through the gasket just to hold the gasket to keep it from moving. And that way all our holes line up when we go to tighten it down. All right, so let's go ahead and get the pan up in here. Get your 13mm ready so we can get some of these tight. And I'm just gonna go get a few in, hand tighten them, and then we'll get them snug and do the final torque at the end here. So again, just get it lined up here. And then just get a few of these started here. And you always want to do these by hand because these can strip real easy. So now with all those started, I'm going to go ahead and just snug them up real quick here. I'm going to kind of go in a crisscross pattern as I'm doing that. Alright guys, so now with all those snug, let's go ahead and torque it. And you're going to want to torque these to 97 inch-pounds, or I think that's equivalent to 8 foot-pounds. So right around that range. And again, I'll kind of go in a crisscross pattern starting in the center and so on until we get them all torqued. And then as you saw on this one here, this one's kind of harder to get to. You need to use a swivel socket if you have one, or just a small ratchet there. So let's go ahead and torque these. All right, so I went back around one more time just to make sure they're all torqued. And take your time doing this. Your arms will get sore using that torque wrench, but go ahead and do that. And now let's move on to getting that bracket back on for the cable there. Okay, so now the worst part of the job here is getting this bracket back on. So it's going to sit on there like that, and you got to kind of go from the back and then push forward a little bit here. So if you get one hand up in here and then kind of get that lined up. Get your Torx T40 screws. At least get them started in here. Once you get that started, grab your Torx T40. Okay, I got those snug. Let me flip my wrench around here. Let's just make sure we get those tight. Okay, got those tight. So now with that on, let's go ahead and get our cable through here. So again, just feed it from the back. And then all you gotta do is pretty much pull on it. And you can see it locks into place there. And then go ahead and grab your little staple clip here, and let's go ahead and stick that on in here. And that just kind of goes sideways behind those clips that you push in right here. So this is going to go behind it. Again, it's hard to get your hands up in here as well. I'm trying to get it so where you guys can see it, but you can see I got it started. So then you just push it all the way through, just like that. And that keeps that from slipping out of there. And then up front here, you'll just push it on and it clicks right in there. Just like that. So we should be good. And then before we start filling, I like to just hit this with some brake clean real quick. Okay, so before we go ahead and start filling, this is pretty much all that came out. There's some in this filter still, you know, a little bit left in there, and then my other second pan that was under there that was dripping into when I pulled this one out. But as you can see, it's kind of hard to see on there, but you got a 5-quart mark, 10 quart, 15, and 20. So we're right at the 5-quart mark that came out. But if you remember, when I first pulled that dipstick when it was cold, it seemed like it was overfilled, so not really sure. And then according to this box that the filter came in, you can see right here, it says service fill 5 quarts right there. So maybe it is 5 quarts. So, but I think what I'll start out with is just 4 quarts, and then we can always add some more if we need to. So then go ahead and pull out your dipstick here. Grab yourself a long funnel, something like that. And if you look on your dipstick here, you'll see, hopefully you guys can see it, but it says right on here, if I find it, I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but you can see it says right there, Dexron 3 fluid only. And they don't really make the Dexron 3 anymore because it's been superseded. So I went with the Castrol Transmax, and you can see Dexron 6 is what this is. So this supersedes the Dexron 3, so this will work just fine. And I got a case of 6 of these off of Amazon, which I'll put a link into as well. So let's go ahead and start adding 4 of these, and then we'll start it and check our level. All right, so there's 4 quarts. Go ahead and pull our funnel here. And we'll go ahead and stick our dipstick back in here. So now let's go ahead and start it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slowly go through each gear, pausing for a second here. So there's reverse, shift to neutral, shift to drive, down to third, second, first, and then I'll go back up through the gears, back up to third, drive, neutral, reverse, back into park. And now I'll go through this one more time really quick, and then we'll check our level. Alright, and then as you can see down there that we're still cold, so let's go ahead and check the level. Go ahead and pull your dipstick. Give it a good wipe. Scoop it back down in there. Pull it out. And let's see where we're sitting at. So you can see we got a little bit of remnants. That's just from it still going down the dipstick tube there. It's hard to tell, but it looks like we're right at the bottom of the cold here. So let me go ahead and wipe this off real quick. Let's go ahead and check it again. As you can see, that's a little better there. And it looks like we are right at, it's really hard to tell, but it looks like we're right at the bottom of the cold again. Let me just check this one more time here. Okay. So yeah, as you can see, according to this, we're right in the middle of the cold. So we should be good right there. And that's at 4 quarts. So I think I'll go ahead and take this for a spin. We'll get it up to temperature. And as it heats up, this ATF will expand. And then we'll check and see where it is at the hot. And if we need to add any or not when I get back here. And then before you take off, just go ahead and take a peek underneath. Make sure you're not dripping or leaking any ATF. And this looks good. So I just got back from about a 20-minute drive. And you can see down here in the corner that we're way up in temp. So let's go ahead and check our level now. Alright, so let's go ahead and pull that dipstick. Hopefully you guys can hear me. It's pretty loud because the engine's really warm and the cooling fans are running. Let's go ahead and pull it, we'll wipe it. Stick it back in there. Pull it out. And as you can see, so it looks like we are pretty much right at the top of the cold, so we're gonna have to add some more. So I'm gonna start out with half a quart here. That drain down, let it sit here for a few minutes. Alright, so I went ahead and let that sit for a few minutes. Let's go ahead and check our level. And as you can see, we are, let me check it again, but it looked like we were right at the bottom of the hot hash marks there. So yeah, as you can see, at the bottom there, that's just remnants of the fluid going down still. It looks like we're right at the bottom of the hot hash areas. So let's go ahead and add maybe another 1/4 of a quart, and then we'll see where we're sitting. So again, I'll let that sit. Alright, so went ahead and let that sit. Let's check it one more time here.
about halfway there in the hot crosshairs. Flip it over here. Still, that's remnants of it flowing down. But I think it's safe to say we're right at halfway there, which should be good. Let me just double check one more time. So I'm going to call that good right there at 4.75 quarts, because we're in the halfway mark there, and as long as you're in those crosshairs, you're good when it's hot. And that way, if it gets any hotter, he still has room for it to expand and it won't be overfilled.
Okay, so that's going to do it for the video. Again, this was a 2002 Chevy Silverado 1500 with a 5.3 liter and the 4L60-E transmission with the deep pan. And I went ahead and replaced that transmission filter along with the fluid. And like I said in the video, so I put in right at 4.75 quarts of new fluid, and that put me right at the middle of the hot crosshairs there. I probably could have added the rest of that quarter of a quart and brought it all the way up, but I just want to leave him a little room in case he decides to tow, and if that transmission fluid were to climb anymore, it wouldn't be overfilled. So probably be safe just to buy 6 quarts. It's better to have more than not enough transmission fluid, and then you can always use it later on down the road. So I'll put a link in the description for that. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, check out all my other videos. I just did a video on this yesterday of replacing the oil pan gasket. So if you're interested in that, check that video out, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.